right, hello, thank you. I'm Patrick from EverDragons, and we'll be talking about non-fungible token bridging, horizontal freedom for blockchain-enhanced games. First, I'll make a very short introduction on what EverDragons is, and then I'll talk about one of the main challenges for larger game titles to go on-chain, present a solution. As you can imagine, it has something to do with bridging, and give some technical details for people who want to know about that. EverDragons is a technology startup, and we focus on non-fungible token technology. I don't know if everyone knows what non-fungible tokens are. It's basically the representation on the blockchain of any digital assets that you can have. So, for instance, these beautiful dragons here can be represented as a token on a blockchain. It's our ultimate goal to bring larger game titles to the chain. If you look at current blockchain games, we can see that the amount of users is still very small due to what was mentioned just before. It's technically a bit difficult, and then you have like 1,000 daily users compared to traditional gaming where you have 1 million, 5 million, 10 million active daily users. So that's a whole different category of market, and that's the one that we want to tap into. And a large game will not want to do complex calculations on the chain. What they will want to do is they want to just store value on the chain. They want to store the assets. So for all the gamers out there, if you have spent thousands of hours to find this magic sword, you want to have it. You want to have true ownership over it. You want to be sure that it belongs to you, even if the game title doesn't exist anymore, cross gaming and all that. So, and the answer to all of this is non-fungible tokens. It's the, as we like to call it, like the Excalibur for the gaming industry. So let's jump right into the main challenge, because I could talk about non-fungible tokens all day, but you have heard already talk about that today, so we talk about one specific topic. If you have your game, the game has several aspects, being 3D, multiplayer, MMO, GPS-based, a lot of aspects, and the blockchain is just one aspect to a game. So you can't expect the big gaming industry coming to the blockchain. You will have to provide the infrastructure and bring it to the gamers, bring it to the gaming industry. And with this new aspect, players and also game developers, they receive a new kind of value. Suddenly, every asset has more value than it had before. You have a new kind of economy. You have like third-party markets. You have the possibility of the multiverse that James has been talking about, and you have like a public CV. So for people who have spent thousands and thousands of hours on playing games and reached a lot of achievements, that's something that you want to show off. That's something that you want to have permanently out there to show to people who you are and what you've done. But the big problem here is all of this is chain specific. You can have the best game out there, you can have created the best market, the coolest items, but they're all chain specific. If you choose the wrong chain, well, your game might be dying a very slow death on a chain that transaction costs got very expensive and very slow. We all know the chain that I'm talking about, and there's other examples out there too. So this is not only a problem for the gaming industry, there's also a problem for the players that say, I'm not going to invest a lot into digital assets that I might not be able to sell or to use anymore in a few years. And today I've been talking to several game developers, and they said, yes, this is actually one of the biggest issues, and this is also the reason why large game titles are reluctant to move on chain. And the solution to that is bridging. Become chain agnostic. I'll make a simple example here. Besides building the technology, we also have a small decentralized gaming platform where you show off this technology. It's also called EverDragons, like our company. So we have this beautiful water dragon here. It belongs to a player, and it's currently on the Ethereum blockchain. Now the player decides Ethereum became too expensive and too slow. I would like to move to, for instance, to Tron or to the POA network. So he clicks the bridging button, types in the address of the other chain, and clicks send. And a few seconds later, this dragon will appear on the other chain, and the player can continue playing over there. So he moved his value from one chain to another. And yeah, so this is the first step that we took. This is to prove that the technology works. So this is horizontal freedom, and horizontal freedom means several things. For instance, it's future safe, meaning you can deploy today on one chain. You can say, okay, we'll have to start sometime, so we'll start and we'll choose one chain, everything is good. And if ever there's any issue on this chain, you can move your assets, either your own assets as a player, you can move them to another chain, or as the game publisher or game developer, you can say, now we're like moving the whole arsenal of assets to another chain. It also brings flexibility, since there's loads of chains out there, and we strongly believe that the future will bring a very horizontal scalability. So not only can you move when you have to move, but also when you choose to move. For instance, you could say there's a cheaper chain out there, there's a safer chain, a faster chain, or simply a scalability, like a horizontal scalability solution to the current chain, that they say, oh, we'll just make a second one specifically for gaming or something like that. So it gets you a lot of flexibility. Now, again, to what was said before about usability, isn't that very complex for a user to say, oh, you need to choose all these wallets? Well, we don't think so, because we think in the future all this will be automated. You will basically have like your roaming set up in the wallet, and the wallet will be integrated into the game. So the largest amount of gamers is not interested in installing a dApp browser and like going to Binance and buying currencies and all that. They want to have it all automated. So they will play their game like they always played their game. They will have a function that says send to marketplace, send to blockchain marketplace. They've heard of blockchain. They know it's safe. They know it's a marketplace that also crosses over with other chains. They can move the asset there. Perhaps it takes a few seconds. Perhaps it doesn't, depending on how fast the chain is. But they don't really need to know what chain it is on. They just need to know it's on a chain. Perhaps they have some boxes that they can tick to say this is a valuable asset. I want it to be on a safe chain or on a fast chain or on a cheap chain. And the wallet will handle all that for you. So this is what we believe will definitely come. And this will be the solution. And now to talk a little bit technical here. I don't know, we saw before, you asked around who's a developer, so I'm sure a lot of people here know what a smart contract is and have deployed something and have worked with the blockchain. So basically what you need is, on each chain that you want to bridge, you will need to have the same smart contract that holds the actual non-fungible token. So everything that you have deployed on one, you need it on the second one as well. You also have a bridging contract, so the bridge is 50% smart contract. Of course, you have some rights that you need to give out for security reasons. But then also you have something in between the actual bridge, because one chain cannot talk directly to another chain. So what you need is an infrastructure. So there's a server infrastructure in the back. And there's several types of server structure, of server structures, or server or bridge architectures. Obviously, you need to have at least a redundant architecture, so that if one of the servers fails, your dragons or your assets, whatever the assets are, if you bridge them from one chain to another, they don't get stuck. So you have this redundancy. A better solution is, of course, a distributed solution. So if other game developers say, hey, EverDragons, it's really cool, we want to use your bridges too, let's work together. You can say, okay, cool, let's work together, and why don't you run some bridging service as well? For us, what we think, what will come at least by end of this year or beginning of the next year, there will be validator bridge structures, meaning there will be several bridge nodes running for the same type of non-fungible token that belong to different parties. So there will be a consortium of 5, 6, 7 game makers. They each run their own bridge, but they all work. They all transport the same types of tokens. So one game transports the tokens of another one, and they each have to validate that also the assets that another bridge over that is actually the correct way to do it. And perhaps in the future we have a fully decentralized version of that. We'll see that the bridges will be as complex basically as a blockchain in the end. But yeah, and we believe that this solves the biggest problem, and this the biggest problem for large game titles to actually come on chain. Yeah. So thank you very much for that, and if there's any questions.
Wow, we're going fast this afternoon. Right, lots of questions though, okay. Lots of good technical questions. We start with down the front. You can remind us again who you are.
Shaban Chameh from EverDreamsoft. So you are building those bridges. Is it a part of the project in your company?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
What was that question?
So you are building these bridges.
Yeah, we have bridges running right now. So the EverDragons players, they can bridge their assets from right now between 3 chains. And so we have proven the concept. So all this EverDragons platform is basically a proof of concept of all the technology that we built, and the bridging is one of that. Yes.
So other developer can use your tech.
It's not so easy right now. They would have to talk to us. They cannot just use it like that. So we would have to collaborate, but it's possible, yes. So anyone who says, "Oh, I want to move away from Ethereum," they can contact us. We can discuss it, and we can see what we can do to help them bridge the assets over. Yes.
Thank you.
And are you planning to do more, go across more chains, or it's kind of 3 at the moment? Is your kind of limit?
I think right now we'll stay with the 3 chains because the technology is, or the concept is proven, and that's what we want to do. And the ultimate goal is, as I said before, to bring a large title on the chain, and from there on, of course, it depends on the chains that are new, that are fast, that are sexy. Yeah.
So, Mark Eisenstadt, decentgames.io. Yeah, very nice. I would say on the plus side, I think the kind of being chain agnostic, NFT bridging is an extremely cool, probably necessary thing to do. So that's very neat. On the minus side, I guess 2 questions. One is that a lot of people, in fact, until your talk, everybody's saying, well, we want to have, we want players to really own their assets so they can live on after my company dies.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody says that. But nobody said, but that could still be a problem. Like even the guy just before you with Soccer Game Manager, very cool game. But by implication, what you just said is there's no hope for living on, for players' assets to live on after the company dies if the chain itself also has some problems. So you better be chain agnostic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, okay, so that's a very cool thing because of that potential loophole. Your assets won't live on or they might be problematic.
They might probably just lose the value if nobody else uses that chain anymore. Yeah.
Okay, so we go chain agnostic and so on. But then a thing that worries me about that philosophy is I'm now trading one kind of risk for another, which has to do with the, let's say, the relative exchange rates. And you're going to automate that with some AI tool. But then in effect, I'm betting on some kind of automatic arbitraging or trading service, which itself is a very highly risky enterprise.
The bridge, especially once it's decentralized or at least distributed over several nodes, the bridge is basically the same technology as a blockchain itself. It's a technology that says, okay, there's several validators, and all it does runs like a smart contract. It says, this is what I do. I transport from one side to another. It's all open. Everybody can see what items have been bridged over.
No, but it's open. But to jump chains, you're depending on some kind of real-time value optimization or something, right?
There's servers that have to run, of course. There's computers that have to run it, but the same way that there's also computers that the blockchain runs on. The same way that you have several blockchain nodes, like with DPoS chains, you have something like 27 nodes or something, well, depending on the chain. And in this case, if you would manage to get, let's say, 6 nodes running for the bridge, that would already be, let's say, very safe, very future safe, very stable.
Sorry, when you're talking about value, you're talking about financial value of the asset. Is that what you're talking about?
Actually, yeah. I should
so you're saying if you bought something for 1 ether, what's the transfer if it's going through to Tron? Is that the number question?
Yes, because if I as a player, I'm worried about the financial value of my in-game assets. So I go to this NFT bridging seems a really cool idea, but how do I know? Are you saying I neither have to know nor care what chain my game is actually running on, because the bridging, your chain agnostic tool will just take care of it?
Exactly. To use the blockchain the same way that you use an internet provider, for instance. So if you play a mobile game, then you don't really care if it's like O2 or Telecom or who the internet provider is. To say it's a backend structure. This one is faster, it's better. This one is slower. It also works, but it's a bit boring then. And the same way you use the blockchain just as a level one infrastructure.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's a very cool idea.
I guess the interesting thing would be is if you would actually change the value of an asset. Say you had an EverDragon that you bought on Ethereum, it's worth something because there was liquidity in this market, and then you take it over to Tron, it could be worth more or less depending on the liquidity in that market. So there is this
That's
kind of
true, yeah.
you could, I don't know. I mean, you could have people moving assets across because they have more value.
Exactly.
That'd be
Yeah.
an interesting.
And currently, the way that we have it, the player has the choice of chain, and we have seen it actually as soon as we expanded to Tron, and it was pretty bearish the market at the time, except Tron was going upwards. So after a short time, people had found out exactly, seeing, oh, they're much cheaper on this chain, and the marketplace on the POA network got completely bought empty. I think there's 3 dragons left, and they were all moved over to Tron and were sold there for a profit then. Yeah. Okay. But that's completely fair, I think. Yeah.